Thanks for starting your Wednesday afternoon with us here on THV 11 News at Noon. I'm Michael Aaron in the Weather Center alongside meteorologist Nathan Scott. It has just been kind of a week of changes. We had like that really nice day yesterday, hot today, and then more changes on the way.
And it's humid out there, Michael. The dew points are back up to the upper 60s, low 70s. We got that moisture on the increase, but take a look at the radar loop. Most of the shower and thunderstorm activity staying out to the west, as we expected. Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas. So most of our Wednesday will be dry around central Arkansas. The best chance of rain today will be for west Arkansas. Look at the cloud cover. They are stuck with a deck of clouds over Fort Smith, Fayetteville, keeping the numbers into the 60s. Meanwhile, other locations like Little Rock has seen some breaks of sun, so we're already up to 82 degrees. Here's future radar. The best chance of showers and storms will be for west and northwest Arkansas, and then that line of showers and storms will try to inch its way into central Arkansas through the overnight hours into your Thursday. Today, temperatures warming up into the low to mid 80s with that mixture of sun and clouds, and just keep that rain gear close by just in case an isolated shower does pop up. I'll talk about rain chances for the rest of the work week, and also the fall-like conditions are still on tap. I'll have more on that coming up later.
Nathan, thank you. We continue to follow a story that we first brought you here as breaking news at noon yesterday. Little Rock Central High School students are learning remotely today, and the campus is closed after several rounds hit the school building yesterday morning and sent the campus into lockdown. Thankfully, no one was physically hurt, but this was a traumatic experience for a lot of students. Here's what we know about the investigation. Police say this all stemmed from a shooting on Denison Street, about 2 blocks south of the school. This is a campus with about 2,500 students. Some of them were in class, while some were outside eating lunch. And as the school went into lockdown, we actually spoke with one student outside who just described it all as chaos.
We're trained like all our lives, like this is something that's definitely going to happen to you at some point. And, we all kind of thought like, this is it. This is the point where it's going to happen to us.
This needs to be their safe haven. This is where they need to feel safe and that it's a place where they can go. And that's what we're going to continue to work on day in and day out.
Little Rock police believe the school was not the intended target. Even so, they say the person responsible will likely face federal charges. Students were sent home early yesterday, and we should learn when classes will continue sometime later today. And of course, we'll keep you updated. Still keeping our focus on schools, but switching to the ever-changing mask policies that they are dealing with across the state and the impact that that's having on kids. The Lone Oak School District bases its mask policy off of COVID case numbers and quarantines. If quarantines and cases go above 50, masks must be on campus. If below, it's up to the student themselves. According to the district, the system has worked for the most part.
We haven't had any major complaints about it being too difficult to do. It's been more of a, I wish I had known sooner, but we let them know as soon as we can.
Throughout the last few months with different court cases, we've seen a number of districts go from requiring masks to making them optional and vice versa. And for therapists like Isis Petway, she worries a policy that changes weekly could affect kids negatively.
I don't think the change up is going to be good for kids' mental health, because what we are seeing is we're either living in fight, flight, or freeze mode. I know we talk about flexibility because life happens, but having that predictability, that routine is so helpful and helps things to go so smoothly.
Petway says it's important that parents have clear communication with their kids and make the best decision for their family. As we get the latest COVID-19 numbers in Arkansas, Governor Asa Hutchinson says we've hit a plateau when it comes to new infections in the state. The Department of Health says 733 new cases were reported yesterday. And while that number has declined since the summer, it is starting to level off. We're still seeing gradual progress, though, when it comes to active cases and hospitalizations. 6,806 COVID cases are active across the state. Meanwhile, 537 Arkansans are fighting the virus from the hospital. And unfortunately, another 15 COVID-19 deaths have been added to the state's total. Rapid COVID testing at home is widespread in the United Kingdom. We could soon see that here as well. The White House has a $1 billion plan to make over-the-counter tests widely available. In the early days of COVID, scientists pose an interesting question. What if everybody could just test themselves at home? Whether going to school, weddings, or a big party, that's been a reality in the UK for months now. At-home testing in England has become as routine as brushing your teeth, even packing your books for school.
Are you surprised when I tell you that hardly any American students test?
I think that's really weird. Like, I guess like I wouldn't feel more like less safe going to school, but I'd feel more like worried like you wouldn't know if anyone had it.
Thank you.
If you can even find, or rather you can even find an at-home test kit in the U.S. If you can find one, they're $12 for a set of 2, but the FDA announced last week that it would allow the sale of similar antigen tests, and the White House has pledged that 200 million rapid at-home tests per month will be available starting in December. President Joe Biden is meeting with business leaders in the shipping and trucking industries, and as Natalie Brand reports, he's trying to figure out how to avoid Christmas coming a little late this year.
The White House announced workers in the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, California are moving to 24/7 operations to clear a logjam of goods sitting offshore.
We are processing right now as a country record levels of containers and other goods coming into our ports already. The issue is that there's even more demand than the supply chain can support.
FedEx and UPS are also committing to expanding their operations. Gene Soroka, the head of the Port of Los Angeles, says his workers are already moving record numbers of goods, but the ships keep arriving.
They're averaging 6 days per week of work since the beginning of the COVID-19 restrictions here in March of 2020. And that's why we keep moving so much cargo, but it's still more on the way, and we've got to keep shipping at that.
There are similar bottlenecks in ports around the country as the increase in online shopping has fueled more imports, but there's a shortage of truck drivers to help deliver the goods.
And the end result is a lot of businesses are going to be under pressure. I think you're going to see businesses not be able to make their Christmas, their holiday shopping season targets because they can't get the inventory in stock.
The supply chain issues are already impacting the U.S. economy. Retailers are charging more for just about everything. The Labor Department announced inflation rose again in September. The Consumer Price Index is now 5.4% higher this year compared to last.
Probably going to see higher prices persist right through the beginning of next year, probably through the end of the first quarter.
With goods stuck in ports and prices on the rise, experts say it's better to start your holiday shopping now to make sure you get those gifts on time. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
The Biden administration says it's working with states to try to speed up the process for getting new truck drivers their licenses in order to help with that trucking shortage. The IRS is sending out letters to millions of Americans that may affect your tax return money. So listen up here. What's called a CP-12 notice doesn't look like a typical IRS letter, and you might mistake it for a scam, but it turns out it is very real. It states there could have been some misreporting with the money you got from the government during the COVID-19 pandemic. Essentially, that means you may receive another check for more money, or you may have to send some of those dollars back. Here's George Harris with Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
They sent the stimulus checks out at different times of the year, and people had plenty of time to forget what they received, when they received it. So when they came in to get their taxes done, they didn't remember. A lot of people just guessed at what they received, and that guessing is what's causing the problem.
Keep in mind, this only has to do with your federal tax return, not your state taxes. If you do get the letter in the mail, it will include contact information for the IRS. Let's turn to the nation's capital now. The House has voted to increase the federal debt limit until December 3rd by $480 billion, temporarily avoiding what could have been an economic crisis. Last week, the U.S. Senate approved the measure. Republicans and Democrats negotiated a short-term fix. Both the short-term debt ceiling increase and a temporary government funding bill expired the same day in less than 2 months, setting the stage for another possible showdown when the deadline approaches. All right, here's something that a lot of employers are dealing with. They are suffering through a worker shortage. One reason why a record number of people are quitting their jobs. CBS's Michael George has more on what's being called the Great Resignation.
I want to wake up every day with that natural, I call it childlike wonder.
That led Dawn Werner to quit her job of 20 years in finance this summer. She decided to change careers completely and work for an airline in consumer insight.
The pandemic may have influenced it in that I think it changed my mindset.
The U.S. Labor Department says a record 4.3 million Americans quit jobs in August. That's the highest number ever recorded. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger told CBS Mornings the pandemic led many people to rethink their careers.
There are those folks who were basically saying, I learned a lot about myself, my family. I want a better work-life balance, and I've got to figure out how to do that. What's really clear to me is this will persist, and it is something that is staying in this labor force.
But experts say workers who are thinking about leaving their current job want to consider several factors. That includes a plan for health care coverage changes, figuring out how to reinvest any retirement accounts, and saving enough for an emergency reserve.
If you're considering leaving, stockpile some cash.
Yeah.
And the reason is you don't know how long you're going to be out of the marketplace.
Schlesinger says people who want to switch careers have some great opportunities. There are more than 10 million job openings, and many employers are offering great pay and benefits to attract workers. Michael George, CBS News, New York.